If I can get, oh, look at you, like good students. It brings back memories. About 5 years ago, I taught 131 in this class. And so I'm envisioning the students that sat over there and the students that sat over there. And the troublemakers are exactly where the same troublemakers were then as well. So welcome. Welcome to the Burtenshaw Lecture Series. My name is Jim Harbour, and I am the director of the School of Hospitality Business Management. And I thank you all for being here. I know it's cold outside and a lot of you students want to wander off the hill and get back home, but I appreciate you coming by and listening to what we have to say today. And hopefully you learned something, hopefully get some inspiration, and you are better for it. Today we are celebrating the industry. The Burtenshaw Lecture Series is made possible by the generosity of Jerry and Angelina Burtenshaw. This lecture series has been taking place since 1981. I'll let you do the math. And was started in the spirit and the remembrance of their son, Calvin Brett, who passed away in a car accident before he could attend WSU. Today we have Trina, Brady, and Melody here representing the family. Thank you all for coming. I know some have come far across the pass in the middle of the night and come down from Spokane in nasty weather this morning, so I appreciate it, and that having you all here to celebrate your family's continued generosity and engagement with the student experience and providing all of the scholarships in this series. So thank you for being here. As I said, they also set up the Calvin Brett Burtenshaw Memorial Scholarship, which has been giving students an easier path to finishing college with scholarship money for many, many, many years, in addition to this lecture series. So I want to just talk a little bit about Jerry, the handful of times I met him, and what I think he is doing as he watches down over us today. Jerry was a very generous person, obviously with the funds to keep this going, to give to the students to have those experiences. But you also see this in his local community as well as the industry, okay? He was very influential. If you look his bio, you'll see he won the WSU Alumni Achievement Award. He was Man of the Year for the Washington State Restaurant Association. I mean, they don't just hand that out to anybody. That's wonderful. He was part of the inaugural class of the SHBM Hall of Fame, and he was dedicated to the industry, dedicated to the promotion of education for the student experience, and dedicated to his family and friends. And I believe that he is watching over us today with a smile, and he is smiling because the students are here, and they are engaged, and they are hopefully listening and learning and growing through this lecture. His family is here, carrying on the tradition of generosity, engagement, and the student experience. And more than anything, he'll be smiling because John Oppenheimer is here, allowing him to come in with his time, energy, and spirit to, I don't know, we will see what exactly we deliver today. So, yeah. So before I introduce the speaker of John Oppenheimer, I'd like to take the following to recognize all of those people on the advisory board. At your age, maybe we just raise our hand. For all faculty, staff, and in hospitality and or anywhere on the university, you can stand. You can stand. Let's see. Stand up. Stand up. Perfect. And then to all the students, you can stand. But thank you. I know that there's a lot of places you could be right now, and you chose to be here, and for that, I am grateful. So welcome, and congratulations on making a good choice this afternoon. So before we go any further, I'd ask you to do one thing. Can you not only silence your phone, can you put it away? Can you be ready to listen, to learn and engage, and be present for the next 50 minutes? Forget what's happening out there. Listen to what John has to say. I think he's going to be very entertaining and very educational, and I hope that you can embrace that, engage that, and take something away from that, okay? And don't use that I'm taking notes on my phone. Don't use that one. Don't use that one. So, all right. John Oppenheimer, the founder and chairman of Columbia Hospitality, the founder of overseeing 102 properties across 12 states, including hotels, resorts, residential communities, golf courses, and restaurants. He launched Columbia Hospitality in 1995 to manage the Bell Harbor International Conference Center in downtown Seattle, and has since founded 5 successful hospitality businesses on top of that. He serves as several boards, including Virginia Mason, Anthony's Restaurants, Northern Properties, Chelan Valley Farms, among others that had 2 letters, UW, that I had to get out. He's on so many boards, I kept reading, I was like, all right, let's condense this. And I guess if I have to choose which ones not to celebrate, we might take UW leadership out of there. John and his wife Deanna are dedicated philanthropists, serving as the 24-25 co-chairs of the Auction of Washington Wines and past co-chairs of major civic events, including the Woodland Park Zoo, Jungle Party. That sounds fun.
It's a fun party.
That's a good party. Virginia Mason Dream Builders Ball, and they are honored by the Seattle Hotel Association and the University of Washington for their leadership and service. A University of Puget Sound graduate in urban affairs and political science, John and Deanna were recognized for their contributions with the dedication of the Oppenheimer Hall. He also is the author of Keys to the Room, Unlocking the Doors of Opportunities and Possibilities. John credits his early success, I'm giving it away now, his early lessons in customer service to his first job. Were you going to tell the story?
Mm-hmm.
I will let you tell the story.
You can tell it and we can compare notes.
Okay. So,
No, I didn't mean that. Yeah.
before there was child labor laws, John was a hustler in Boise. And he went to the airport. You weren't on anybody's payroll, right? This was fully just off the tips. I'm taking your thunder.
Gratuities. Yes.
Gratuities. So he and his buddy were hurting for cash in the summer, and they realized that if they moved your bags as a powerful young businesswoman from here to there and helped you, that you might give them a couple dollars. And the hustle began. With that, I introduce to you John Oppenheimer.
Thank you. Thank you. It was not a, Jim, thank you very much. It was not a hustle. It was providing a valuable service to help people. So thank you all for being here. Jim, thank you for that introduction and the invitation to be here with all of you. This is just a great experience. It's a great experience to be with all of you, particularly the students that I had a chance to talk to, because you that are faculty members, now I see why you do what you do, because it's the students that are filled with so much energy, optimism, and enthusiasm, which is one of the great things about the hospitality industry. So thank you very much for the invitation. To the Burtenshaw family, I knew Jerry. Not well, but I knew him. I met with him on multiple occasions, probably 3 or 4. He was very involved in Rotary, which I was involved with. And what an inspiration. Jerry was, I mean, everybody that spent 5 minutes with Jerry, his enthusiasm was absolutely contagious. So to be invited today to speak of something that you and your families made possible is a giant honor. So thank you for that. I'm going to speak for a few minutes, and then Jim and I are going to just have a conversation is our plan. But first, I got to do this first too, because I have some fact checkers here. Let me introduce 3 of my colleagues, Sam, Angelica, and Kat. Will you please 3 stand? So all Columbia Hospitality team members, all recruiting students for Columbia Hospitality. So to you 3, thank you so much for what you do every day. I mean, a hospitality company is really only its people, which I'll talk more about. You 3 are great examples of that. You've traveled not only to Pullman, Washington, but particularly Kat has been in Tennessee, all over the United States, doing all kinds of positions, both recruiting and interim, serving as an interim HR specialist, all kinds of things. So to all 3 of you, thank you for what you do every day for the organization. So what Jerry knew is what I know. Hospitality industry is fun, it's strategic, and it's important. And we make a giant difference. We have, and why am I so excited about the hospitality industry? Well, a couple of reasons. One, the industry is thriving, absolutely thriving. Those of you that are students and are thinking about the hospitality industry, go for it. Those of you that are students that are already in the hospitality industry, congratulations. Very good decision, because we're in an industry that's absolutely thriving. The numbers show it, which I'll talk about in a minute. And the second reason I love this industry is it's all about the people. It is all about the people business. So first, the numbers. Overall visitors to our state has increased by 6% from the high year of 2019. Visitors are spending 5% more statewide. CTAC, which is not Spokane and it's not Pullman, but CTAC last year had 52.6 million visitors, and this year is going to have 53 million visitors. Why that's important to all of us and to Alaska is we're the feeding ground. That airport is the feeding ground, and the number of people that go through that airport is a great indication of our thriving hospitality industry. And you guys know more about this than I do, but all data from the Swiss travel reports are up. All data is up. RevPAR is up. Average daily rate in a lot of markets is up. And so the numbers show this is a thriving and growing industry in spite of the obstacles that Anthony has to be sure we overcome. U.S. guests, U.S. and the United States, this is a number that's so big it's hard to fathom. $777 billion was spent in 2025. And that's going to go up by 30 more billion this year. So this data is one of the reasons to be so enthusiastic about what we're doing. In this era of highs and lows and complications and all that's going on in the world, this is an industry that's growing and thriving. As Jim said, I learned about the people part of the business at an early age when I was a skycap, not a hustler, a skycap, because there we just had to run up to a car, help people with their bags, and put a big smile on our face and hustle in the speedy way, not in the. And the more we did that, the better our tips were, the better our gratuity was. And that's a lesson I learned way, way back, and I've never forgotten. And I hope that's what happens in all of our hospitality industries. I hope that's what happens at Columbia Hospitality. How we treat each other and how we create stories is part of the magic of what we do. And that's what we do in hospitality. We create magic. It's not, Jim said, I'm on the board of Virginia Mason Franciscan Health. That's a great reminder of a very serious business. I mean, at Virginia Mason Franciscan Health, which has 13 hospitals, I mean, if they make a mistake, it's very serious. If our broccoli's a little overcooked, we got to keep perspective. It's not the end of the world. And my board work on Virginia Mason is a great reminder of that. It's a great reminder that in the hospitality industry, we have this great privilege of creating amazing stories and creating amazing magic. Now I've moved away from my script. That's going to be dangerous. But a story that comes to mind is, and we have so many of them, and you all have a bunch of them, is we manage a conference center right near SeaTac, and it's called Cedarbrook, near the airport. And this is just one of a million examples. But a woman's checking in. It's about 11:30 at night. She's checking in. She's a little frazzled. The front desk person could see something was going on. She was not happy. And his name was Gary at the front desk. And he said, is everything okay? Did you have a long flight? Anything I can do for you? And she said, I have the biggest interview of my life tomorrow. The biggest interview of my life tomorrow. And I don't have any socks. I have a pantsuit, but I have no socks. And it's going to look so weird. And I'm all freaked out about it. And Gary, the front desk agent, said, ma'am, don't worry about your socks. Just go to your room. Do you drink wine? And she said, I do drink wine. And she said, let me send you a glass of wine, and I'm going to take care of your socks for you. And he got the security. So she went to her room. He sent her a bottle of Cabernet, and he found a 24-hour place that sold socks. I don't know where he found it, but he just bolted out. And he said to our security guy, because we don't have that many people working the front desk, he said to the security guy, would you just cover the front desk for 30 minutes? He didn't ask permission. He didn't go through some big process. He just went and got her socks. And the next morning, when she woke up, he sent her a note. He didn't want to bother her. So he sent her a message to her room. And then when she woke up, there were 12 different colors of socks waiting at the front door. And that's the kind of opportunity we get. I promise, I don't know if she got the job, but I promise That lady told that story when she got home. And that's the kind of stories that we get to create. And selfishly, it's so much fun in our business to create those kind of stories. So something that we try to do, and we talk a lot about it at our company, is how do you create at least 2 stories every day? A story for your colleagues, story for each other, just to make the day a little bit more pleasant for each other. And then how do you create at least 1 story for a guest? And if you do that, it becomes contagious, and it becomes, it's one of the elements that makes our life in this industry so much fun. So this business is a blast, is my point. Another reason this business is a blast is more than ever before, and the statistics show it, people need people more than they've ever needed them. People need people. They want to be around each other. The Atlantic Monthly did a survey, and it showed, let me get this right so I don't make up numbers, which I've been known to do, but the Atlantic did this study. It said 40% of Americans were not as close to their friends as they would like to be. A decade ago, Americans spent an average of 6 hours a week with their friends. In 2024, Americans spend an average of 3 hours a week with their friends. So we create places for people to spend more time together. We create places for people to have magical experience, to create stories together. We create people for that hunger to be fulfilled, whether it be a romantic getaway or a productive meeting, or in our business, we manage 14 homeowners associations, high-rise buildings. We have 4,000 doors is how they judge it in that field. And we're creating communities there for people to go home every day. That has its plus and minuses, in full disclosure. It's the guest that never checks out. So the impossible guest is there day in and day out. But we're creating communities there. So you have picked a business, or you have picked an industry, to you students, that is thriving. It's a blast. I mean, I started the business in 30 years ago. I started the business 30 years ago, and I still can't wait to get to work every day. I can't wait to get to work every day. And it's so much fun to see others thrive, like you 3, and to see others thrive into families. And Jackson worked at one of our properties. And so that's a blast. Kate, I'm not going to go around the room, but it's so fun to see people. Kate, 5.5 years, who's now on this board. So Andy Olson, who some of you know, so I got to stop that. I'll go on. I'm not. Yeah, so many people. So thank you for exploring this industry. To the faculty members, thank you for creating great educational opportunities for the students. We all learn from you. To the Burtenshaw family, thank you for what Jerry created. And I know he's looking down with excitement and happiness. So it's a privilege and a pleasure to be here. It's a real honor. So thank you for your attention. I'm excited for our conversation. Jim, thank you.
Hi, Ron. All right. Well, in the spirit of you, people needing people, how do you cultivate strong organizational culture and retain top talent in an industry known for such high turnover with so many different types of businesses and types of locations? How have you gone about being successful at that?
That as one grows, and we're in 12 states, so you hit the nail on the head. That's a real challenge. How do you keep the culture alive? How do you keep the values alive as you grow both geographically and number of people, particularly number of people, with 3,000 plus team members? So the way we try to do it, and it's a team sport, is 3 things. 1, we try really hard to demonstrate the culture by mixing up teams, by having somebody at Sage Lodge in Montana go to the Marcus Whitman for a task force assignment in Walla Walla, or somebody in Austin, Texas going to upstate New York, so that we learn from each other and learn by way of example is one way. The second way is we have this is an example of technology being a big help. we have a program that many of you, I don't know how widely it's used, called Beekeeper. It's our internal system, and it's only for team members. And everybody can look at that and learn everything about what's going on at other properties. And we also use it as an opportunity to share big success stories, because that becomes contagious. And the last thing is it's a team sport. And if somebody's not excited about what they're doing, and this has been slow for us to learn, if somebody's not excited about what they're doing, we help them find something that they are excited about, and that may or may not be within our organization. In other words, we just won't settle for mediocrity.
Okay. So play off that. Give me an example of a very small way in which you celebrated one of your crew members' successes, and then maybe one where you went a little excessive to celebrate one of your team members' successes.
Yeah, the excessive part is a little easier answer. So Gary, the guy that got the lady's socks. I mean, we may have been excessive because there's a lot of stories about that. We did videos of him. We made a big honor of him. We showed at other properties. We interviewed him. We had him at our leadership meeting and said, "What was your thinking?" Because what we want to be sure is that our culture is not one that says, really, should you have left the property? Really, should you have left your shift? We want to work hard to be sure people know it's okay. I have a deal on my desk. It's a quote from that world famous, most of you will never have heard of this woman, some of you will, Katharine Hepburn. And it says, if you don't break the rules, you'll never have any fun. And so we excessively celebrate people doing really good work.
You don't need to talk about a little one. Why go
I don't
go
know.
big now? Don't worry about it.
I don't know if there's a little one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get to hear about the little ones.
So with over 102 properties, if that is still accurate and it's not more, across all the hotels, restaurants, bars, managed properties, how do you balance consistency while embracing the individual in each operation? Because as I look at your portfolio, it's all over the board.
Yes. So many books you read and perhaps taught at this school, it says, one of the things it says is it's very important to stick to your knitting and do it really well. Stick focused. Well, a lot of companies are super successful doing that, and I admire and applaud that. That is 1,000% opposite of us. So we are we now have organized into 5 different lines of business, and we're into all kinds of different, some have worked, some have not worked. We opened a bowling alley once, that was a disaster. And the consistent factor is guest service, customer service. So whether you're walking into a restaurant, we operate now 5 independent freestanding restaurants. If you're walking into a restaurant or a condominium building or a university food service, which we operate, or a bar, which we operate a bunch of, hopefully it's the sense of, man, I love being here. This is just a fun place to work. And that becomes transparent to the guests. So that the consistency element is the people.
And
and we don't always get it right, we don't always get it right. I'll tell a story about that later, maybe.
You might, the time is now.
Nope.
All right.
So I'm not sure, I got to think if I should share it.
So in the spirit of that, again, because your portfolio is so diverse. There's you got bars in McCall, you just got awards for your spot in Montana. It's so all over the board. How do you use technology, modern innovations to meet all those evolving expectations in those different environments?
Yeah. So Beekeeper is the one I referred to. That's how we communicate with each other. Beekeepers become very important because it's divided into sections. One section is just for fun, has nothing to do with business. It's people sharing, their 2-year-old or their 1-year-old walking for their first time. And it's just about what we can do to create a family spirit. We're a family-owned business, and we want to do everything we can to create a family-oriented business. But that's not your question. What was your question again?
No, how are you using?
Technology. Yeah. Right. Got it. Yep. And so we're embracing that. We're also we use technology as we study our reviews, which is really an important part. I know that there's someone here from Marriott, and my wife's involved in IHG, and I know the big flags are really important, but we think reviews are becoming really more important, and they enable small companies like us to compete with the big flags. And so we're using technology to understand that. I read every single negative review in a printout that comes from data report, every single negative review every month. It's like the worst day of my life. And I read every part of that. And then we use technology and AI to help us respond to that. That's the one side of it. The other side is we are in the people business. And that's one of the things I love about technology is not going to totally replace it. I'm not a believer that people are going to, that we're going to go to some people I know want to never talk to a human. Those are not our kind of guests. So we're not focused on, don't worry, you can come to our hotel and never check in. You can hold your phone up and you can get in the door and you can order and a robot will bring you the food. We tried a robot once at one of our hotels. Her name was Hazel. She was a terrible employee. And so we balance technology, Jim.
Did she collect unemployment?
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. Hazel was in Tukwila, Washington. I think now I don't know what Hazel's doing, but she literally delivered towels. She had an attitude.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Delivering too many towels.
She's just,
So on that, is there how are you using that technology for just to stay on the technology for the personalization for the guests? A lot of those conversations you just had were kind of big, but are you able to track guests and find, I mean, what are you using technology to honor the guests that continue to come back again and again? And
yeah, because we're not a brand. Columbia Hospitality is not a brand. And so if you check into, we do not do a good job. If you check into one Columbia Hospitality property, our databases are not connected, and this is an area we can improve upon, where if you check in and we know that you love a club soda or a glass of champagne, I think the brands do such a good job tracking that. We don't have that down.
Gotcha.
Each property, we celebrate each property and its independence. So that's an area we're trying to toy with a little bit.
Well, I'm sure you're tired of me talking. Has any students got any good questions to break up this little conversation up here? I was going to give you the chance now because since you don't have your phones out to take notes, I'm sure it's burning in your head. And I want you to be good listeners and not be thinking about the questions you want to ask.
Hello. What
Hi.
would you say is your current leadership style and how do you implement it into your work? And then has it changed at all?
Yeah. So thank you for that. My leadership style is changed over the years, and it's now evolved into being a better delegator, which I think I've got half of that down. So as we've grown, I've learned the importance of delegation. One of our colleagues that I work with on our team, who's been with me for 16 years, said to me the other day, he said, we just got to trust the people that got us here. And so we're trying to, so one element of our leadership style or mine is to delegate more. I'm really, really good at saying, it's up to you. I got that down. And that's sort of evolved. Still working on 2 days later, not saying, why the hell did you do that? So it's evolving, but delegation is important. And back to the people factor, celebrating people's success. And the third part of our leadership style is knowing the team. And as we grow, that becomes a little harder. But, I know today is 3 of our team members' birthday, and I called every one of them. And they're like, one's a server, one works in Arizona, is based in Arizona, and the other works at a university that we do the food service for. So we're working real hard to be sure we continue to show me you know me is important to guests. It's even more important to our colleagues.
Damn good question up there.
Very good question.
So I'm going to plant this. Oh, you already read that. Well, this one, I like this one.
Hi, my name's Ben Shattuck, and I'm a senior who's going to be graduating soon and hopefully entering the hospitality industry. And I had a question. When you were talking about reading your negative reviews at the end of the month, you mentioned that you've been incorporating AI into that and using that to help formulate solutions. I was wondering, are there any other sections of your industry that you're looking to incorporate AI and use that more in the future?
It's the answer is there are, but we are at the infancy of understanding AI. Not we as an industry, but we as a company. And we've just brought on, it's a big deal for us, a new team member. She moved here from Maine, and her job is to figure out how do we incorporate AI more. So I think we got to do three things to incorporate AI more. One, we got to hire people that are all your age because you understand it. Two, we got to embrace it. And three, we got to not over embrace it. So for example, in the example I was using is we're using some AI to respond to reviews. I think we got to be very careful of that.
Thank you. That was insightful.
So I'll jump in there because there's a question I want to make sure we get to. And today at the board meeting in the School of Hospitality has been trying to figure out how we tell our story. And you don't have to look far. If you just do a couple Google searches, as much as you made it sound so rosy and powerful and whatnot, because you have the real information, oftentimes you go on, there's negative things, right? You know, shortage of labor, minimum wage, all the challenges that we have. Could you break down some of the perceptions versus reality of common misconceptions of the hospitality industry?
Yeah, I think
There's a lot of.
yes, I think one misconception, Jim, is one big misconception is, it's some people think that you don't have to work too hard. And I think in this industry, you got to love it because the hours are long and it's all about the guest experience. So you got to love it and you got to embrace that. I think that's gotten a little bit better, but that's one misconception. Another is, I'm not, I don't think, I think a misconception is it's really hard to find people. I don't think it's that hard to find good people because what I say to our team is, we can walk in any hotel, you can walk in any restaurant, you can walk in any senior living place, and there are people working. All we have to do is find the best people and be sure they know what a blast it is to work at our company. And so I don't think it's that hard to find really good people. So I think that's a misconception. Another is people in our team says it, say, the market's down, so it's okay that we're down. Just had this conversation this week. The market's down in a particular city, so that's our excuse for why our occupancy is at 70% instead of 80%. I think the response is there's still people staying in every hotel. There's still people. You can walk in any hotel, and no hotel is going to say we have 0 guests. So we have to be creative enough and quick enough and act with urgency that they stay in our hotel. So I think those are a few misconceptions. And we got really important issues that are being dealt with in Washington State in terms of things like minimum wage and others. But let's just figure it out and not spend too much energy whining about it.
Just the rules of the game. You just got to play by them. So how do you work? The market's down, so we're down. You brought that up as, that's not the mantra you want your people living by.
Right.
How do you manage the challenges like economic downturns, staffing shortages, unexpected disruptions,
Right.
Rona,
What's the last one?
the coronavirus?
Yeah, that was the worst, right? So we operate that. COVID was the best example ever of how do you learn to live through something. We operate through another business that we're involved in called Cruise Terminals of America. We operate the 2 cruise terminals that are in Seattle. It's a great business because there are 2 cruise terminals and we operate them both. We lease them from the Port of Seattle. And we've never been involved in a business that one day goes to zero. Just zero. And we couldn't look in the mirror and say, we could have done this better because it was just thrown at us. COVID for us created, as terrible as COVID was and scared us to death, it created what has been our biggest period of growth. And some of the examples, and my favorite example is and you three will remember this if you were, is we did everything we could not to lay anybody off. Because we all knew COVID would disappear in a month, right? It wasn't going to be around long. And then it kept on going. And so first we did furloughs, which meant our team members were still paid their benefits. And then it got to a point where we couldn't do that. So we did lay off a whole bunch of people. But then our team got together and said, what can we do to at least be a little bit helpful? And I'm really proud of this. In 4 days, we created what is called the Columbia Cares Foundation. And the Columbia Cares Foundation today still exists. And it's a foundation through a third party in DC that helped us administer it called Global Impact. And we were so excited that Global Impact would work with us. They worked with the Hilton Foundation and the Four Seasons, and we're like, hi, we're Columbia Hospitality, small little company. And they worked with us to create this foundation. And what the foundation did, it didn't give funds to places like universities. It only gave funds to team members. So someone could apply, and there weren't big grants, but someone could apply for a little bit of aid. And the best part about it is they get an answer within 36 hours. And it's to help with some groceries or to help with some bereavement. And that's still going strong. So that was a big plus that came out of COVID. The second big thing we did is that's when we said we really have to diversify. And we got all fired up about the homeowner association management business. And at the pre-COVID, we managed 2 buildings, one in Maui and one in Seattle. Today, we manage 14 buildings. So diversity became really important, and that's an important lesson that's helped us a lot. So the next disaster, and there'll be something, we're more diverse than we've ever been.
All right, break it up. Some students out there with another good question. Oh, now we're on fire. The engagement. Thank you for putting your phone down.
Hi, I was wondering what like qualities that you look for when you're hiring somebody that makes them stand out, like just as a really excellent candidate or a great team member to be around.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I'll give it in order. The first is our favorite is we look for, and you are all recruiters, but we look for massive enthusiasm. People this is a fun business, so you might as well be a fun person. We've all checked in to a hotel, and the person just hates their job. They're just, you've all been there. They're just energy takers. Just to digress, I told this story at the Hospitality Association, so some of you have heard it, but a friend of mine was checking into a hotel in Las Vegas, and he was the president of a big hotel company, and he's waiting in line. They didn't happen to have a hotel, and he was waiting in line at the MGM Grand. This is a very good lesson for you students. He was waiting in line at the MGM Grand, and it was a long line. And he finally gets up to the front desk. The front desk agent doesn't look up, doesn't acknowledge him, and says, driver's license and credit card. And my friend, Jim, says, is this where you say, welcome to the MGM? We're so glad you're here. And may I please have your credit card? And the guy still doesn't look up and says, credit card, driver's license, there's a lot of people waiting behind you. And so Jim gives his credit card and gives him his driver's license, goes up to his room. Next morning, he's at UNLV. And he's in a room much like you guys have been doing the last couple of days. And they give him a schedule of interviews. And the first student comes in, buttoned up, look great, blue suit, white shirt, tie, comes in all enthusiastic and says, hi. And Jim looks up and says, hi, this can be very short. You had your interview last night when you checked me in at the MGM. So my point is we look for enthusiasm and we look for energy givers, not energy takers. We look for confidence. We're looking for people that have the confidence to just make decisions. And that's the beauty of a smaller company like Columbia Hospitality. We try to shy away from too many policies and procedures. And so we look for confidence. And then the third is some experience, but that's a distance third. That's really fourth or fifth. We can teach the hospitality industry of people. when I was in we have a son, and when he was younger, much younger, he was in like fourth grade. I went to California Pizza Kitchen with he and a buddy. His buddy's name is Gabe. And we go to California Pizza Kitchen, and I'm kind of doing what fathers do. And it's me and Gabe and our son, James. And I'm like, so Gabe, what do you want to be when you grow up? And Gabe looks at me and says, I want to go into the hotel business just like you. And I think, that's kind of a proud moment. I said, oh, that's great, Gabe. Why do you want to go in the hotel business? And he said, you don't have to be too smart. I'm like, whoa. I still give a hard time about that. I think you do have to be people smart.
Jackson, did you have? I know you're loud, but we'll wait.
Given that Columbia is like a smaller company compared to the bigger names like the Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, and given that the industry is changing so much, where do you see Columbia in the next 10 years, and where would you see the industry as a whole?
I think, well, the Columbia in the next 10 years is in the next 5 years. I've asked that a lot, and I have just such a lousy answer. Because I'm not a big believer in 5-year and 10-year plans. I think it's okay. I've kind of evolved to this to have strategy, but we don't have a 5-year or a 10-year plan. And the reason is we wouldn't be in half the businesses that we're in if we did. So I started Columbia Hospitality by accident. And I had another company called CRG Events. Some of you are interested in event management. CRG Events had 350 people that planned corporate events around the world. And the Port of Seattle, the Port Authority, was building a conference center on Seattle's waterfront called Bell Harbor International Conference Center. And they hired us as event planners just to offer a perspective of what we're looking for. And so we did that. And then we submitted a proposal to run it. They did an RFP. And we had a slide that said, why should you hire us? And the next slide said, because we've never done this before. Which kind of threw them off a little bit. And then the next slide said, but we have been customers in 4,200 venues in 28 countries, and nobody understands the customer like we do. And if you hire us to the port, if you hire us, we'll form a separate company. It'll be called Columbia Hospitality, and we will do an amazing job. That was a 20-year contract. It was renewed a few years ago for another 20 years. We have to meet certain benchmarks. But had we had a 10-year plan, we would have said that's not in our 10-year plan. And so we're looking for the right opportunities, and those right opportunities start first. Do they create opportunities for our team members? Are they value aligned? Value aligned is critical. And can we really make a significant difference? So that's why we're in 5 different businesses now. I think all 5 will continue to grow. And if I were to make a prediction, all 5 in 10 years will have grown and be a lot bigger than they are today.
So on that, I mean, what's your approach to, I think I know the answer because you kind of seem like you just, when opportunities present themselves, you take advantage of it, not necessarily because of the timing, but more the opportunity at time. And so how do you look at revenue and strategic growth? Are you occupancy rates and pricing and competitive, all the competitiveness in the industry? I mean, what's your approach? And I guess it's tough for you, I guess, because you have multiple revenue streams, but let's just stay with the hotels in this answer.
So with yield management and looking at revenues, our secret sauce is how do you act fast? Our favorite words are urgency and yes. Yes with a caveat. Yes, as long as it meets our values. So and this goes back to the foundation of when we started in the story I just shared. If you work for Zillow and you're a event planner and you reach out to one of us, our sales team doesn't go to bed at night until they've responded to you. So one is urgency, and we think that's a big competitive advantage. The second is the answer is yes, as long as it meets our values, and we can do anything if you give us enough time and enough money. And we can work with less time if you have more money. So we did an event at Bell Harbor at the cruise terminal in Seattle at Pier 66. It's one of the only cruise terminals in the United States. When it's not a cruise terminal, it's creating revenue for the taxpayers. And we did an event, this is not recent, during the All-Star game for 5,500 people. We had never served more than 1,200 people, and a cruise ship left, and we had 150 people turn that room around all night long because we said yes. My favorite, I love this story, and some of you know her, Erin, a salesperson once came to me and said, got a little challenge for you. I just sold a big piece of business, huge, to the Veterans Administration. It'll be the biggest piece of business that we've ever had. And I said, that's great. And she said, yeah, it's $1 million. And I said, really, $1 million? And she said, it's a training operation for 8 months. And they're gonna do training for 8 months in our space. And I'm like, okay, fantastic. She says, one little glitch. And I said, what's that? And she said, I sold them 2 floors of the World Trade Center, which we don't have any say in or any control over, and it wasn't ours to sell. But you're always saying, say yes, John. So you better go to the port owns that building. So we went to the port and said, we have a great opportunity. And we had to literally tear walls down, build carpet, and make it a training facility. And that's what happened.
Say yes first, maybe not. Quick question before we go out to them is, I would imagine with how many times you speak and how many people you get in front of, what are some of your stock answers when people hear old words of wisdom? What are some of your rules, statements that you live by or that you like to communicate to young people of how to go from here to there?
Yeah, I don't know if I have stock answers because I hope I grow and I'm evolving as we all are lifelong learners. But if I were, and things I think I've said from the beginning are the 2 I just said, act with urgency and have a yes mentality. 3, it's important to keep perspective, have a great time. This is a fun industry. Let's not forget that. This is a good and fun industry that's creating all kinds of joy for all kinds of people. So let's not forget that. Those are some of the things I talk a lot about. I talk a lot about don't over complain, which I think a lot of people do. And then I'm always talking, Jim, a lot about we're all recruiters. And so bring in your friends and family. And I talk a lot about that at our team meetings. We have 100 and something, I think it's 150 at last count, team members that are related to each other at Columbia Hospitality. And and that means like cousins and aunts and uncles and kids. And if you hated your job, you're not going to refer your cousin or your aunt or your uncle or your son or your daughter. And so I talk a lot about that. And so to all of you that are students, I hope you'll consider Columbia Hospitality, but I also hope you'll tell your friends. So those are part of that summer.
And don't be Hazel.
No, Hazel.
All right. Other students with questions out there?
So we have several students watching on Zoom, so we're getting questions through there as well. One of their questions is, what business changes did you make during COVID-19 that you've actually kept as your business model now?
Thanks for that. The biggest change is the Columbia Cares Foundation. That's had the most impact. We kept that and we grew it. It's not only the foundation that helps team members help team members, but in addition to that, we've started doing quarterly, I think this is not uncommon, but we didn't do it before, quarterly community building events to celebrate the community. So those can be, helping clean up a park together or going to a homeless shelter and contributing time to that. And so that all came during COVID when we had more time. Now we're still doing that. It also is a great reminder that COVID is a great reminder that we're there for each other and we've got each other's backs and we're there for each other. We're not just policy driven because on page 6 of the handbook, it says this. So as long as it meets our values, we got more flexible because of COVID.
There's one. Who had the question? There we go.
Hello. So you say that Columbia Hospitality is not a brand. So how would you like it to be remembered, or how would you like it to be known?
Yeah, you'll see it, the way I'd like it to be, I hope it goes on a long time. So I hope it's not just a memory, but I hope that people think about Columbia Hospitality as creating incredible experiences for both team members, and for team members creating incredible experience at a faster than they ever dreamed possible. So that's one of our goals. And to the guest that, and a friend of mine once said, you can always tell, and I think as we grow, this is becoming more and more of a challenge. As you walk into a Columbia Hospitality property, you can, without ever knowing it's a Columbia Hospitality property, you can tell it's a Columbia Hospitality because of the enthusiasm and the energy of the team members. So more opportunities faster than you ever dreamed possible, and creating extraordinary experiences. The extraordinary experiences thing, my favorite story on that is we had a guy, I mean, this is an amazing situation. He was married at Bell Harbor with the conference center. That's our first property. He was married, beautiful wedding. Unfortunately, beautiful wedding, but unfortunately the marriage didn't last. So they got divorced. 3 years later, he found a new bride, got married, and he came back to Bell Harbor. I just love that. I mean, that's a great testimony. Yeah.
Have you seen him since?
I don't know how that, no, I haven't. So that's a good question. I should find that out. Yeah. Well, maybe if he gets married again, it'd be another piece of business.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, is the next one free? How does this work?
Yeah. I have said to people that if you get married, I will personally guarantee if you break up after 50 years, you can come to me and I'll refund the money.
Yeah, you don't want a loyalty program for that
No,
book of business. Any others? Questions from students? All over.
What would make a student's resume stand out against others that might have more experience than them?
Oh, that's a great question. You should answer that. Yeah. What do you think, Kate? Yeah. Yeah.
I look at a lot of resumes every day. I'm on the recruitment talent team for Columbia, so I recruit for over 30 of our 100 properties currently. And I would say what students' resumes is like your extracurriculars. I would say showing if you're not working outside of school, which is totally fine, what involvement in school programs you've done that show leadership skills, that show multitasking, that show flexibility, adaptability. A lot of times on resumes, I see people will list those skills and they'll say, I have leadership skills. I am a multitasker. I am extremely organized. That's really wonderful for you to list those things. And from you telling me that as a person reading your resume, that you do those things well. What I prefer to see is in your experience, to see those traits displayed in your experience. If you can show me how in your role in working in the student store, how you were given multiple opportunities and multiple tasks in that experience, how you executed that tells me you're a multitasker, not just you telling me you're a multitasker. You truly have like 2 pages max, please, to relay who you are. And I know it's not necessarily completely fair, but grabbing us with that is really important. And I also think cover letters are great, but that first paragraph that really tailors it to why you're applying for that position is also really key. I think knowing if you've done research on the role, why you're interested in our company helps us kind of see that we're not just another resume that you threw out there. So personalizing it when you can, and then using that space wisely by showing your experience, your traits through your experience, if that makes sense. Yeah.
That's an example of what I'm trying to do more of, delegation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to throw out one more, though. And this is old fashioned, but you guys are familiar with the telephone. Pick up the phone and call and be aggressive and show, just leave a voicemail for somebody. Pick up the phone and call and say, I really want to work at your company. That happens. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We have time for one more. Do we got one more? Oh, we got lots. Sorry, we missed you.
So my question is, I know you've talked about a lot of like pieces of advice, but I wanted to ask more specifically for seniors and aspiring leaders and people that would want to start their own business. Do you have any pieces of advice for people that know that specifically?
Sure. Go for it. One, you're at an age, if you're a senior, are you a senior? You're a senior. You're at an age where taking risk has never been, there's never a better time to take risks. So what I encourage young people to do is have confidence, take risks. The only way you'll know for sure it won't work out is don't do it. So give it a shot, because it's easier now than it will be in the future. And the people that are some of my, that I look up to, that are my mentors, took risks at an early age and started great successful organizations. And maybe they started 2 or 3 that didn't work, but the third or fourth did. So I think we get real wound up and focused on what if it doesn't work. And some of our owners, so we are, many of our properties are owned by individuals and family offices. And it's amazing to me to listen to their stories of how they generated wealth. And it's the common thread is they did it because they took a shot and they took risks. So go for it.
Well, I think that is our time. I want to thank all of you for being here. Again, Burtenshaws, Trina, Melody, Brady, all of you for being here. Thank you for coming across the state to present your story and to educate and hopefully excite the students that are here. So can we give him a nice round of applause?
Thank you. Thank you.
So before you all lose your mind, because there's no QR code for your amplifier credit, if you swiped your card, yeah, he's looking for it. He was like, I wish it would have kicked. If you've swiped your card, it's all taken care of. It will automatically go, correct? Angie, wherever you are? Perfect. And so in the spirit of not celebrating because we're supposed to celebrate the successes of our friends, and we didn't bring up your UW board affiliations, we are going to send you home with the infamous Cougar Gold cheese.
Oh, I love Cougar Gold cheese. I love it. And it lasts forever if you don't open it.
I bet it doesn't last a week.
Yeah, it probably won't. Yeah, you got that figured out. Thank you.
And then
Oh my gosh.
Thank you very much.
Wow, that'll
Let's go.
impress
We're
my
trying to do
wife.
this. Yeah, no. You hold it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
You did a wonderful job.
Thank you. Thank you. This was a blast. Thank you.